extraordinary because finally it puts the city of Milwaukee in a position to have the same sort of revenue generating tools that virtually every other major metropolitan city in the United States has. Our comparable cities across the country have this tool, and now finally the city of Milwaukee will be able to have this tool to diversify our revenue streams as well. And it puts us in a position to give us the opportunity to focus on Milwaukee's future. Homicides in the city of Milwaukee are down about 30% when compared to this time last year. Now, that means there's still work to do. We're not celebrating that, but it is noteworthy that some of the initiatives that we've been in my administration have been intricately involved in these discussions. Is that we're pretty well organized, and I've got confidence that all the work that we're putting in will make sure that we have an event, a Republican National Convention that is safe for all, and will reflect positively on us in the city of Milwaukee and the story that we have to tell as well. I know that the host committee now is reaching out to local businesses, and from the outset, I've said this is important because the decision to host the RNC, even though I'm a Democrat and not a Republican, the decision to host it, for me to support it, was purely about our economy. It was purely about our economy. It was purely about business. It was purely about jobs and the economic impact that that event would have on some city in the United States. I think that there are opportunities for us to still have our values met. There are still opportunities for us to work with the private sector, for us to work with others in order to continue to have diversity, equity, inclusion programs in the city of Milwaukee. I believe with all my being that there are opportunities to do that. And I will continue to fight to seek for opportunities to do that. But whatever sort of route we take in terms of challenging these policy provisions, those things are already being discussed. In fact, one of the things that I have already supported is getting our intergovernmental relations team to turn around and go back to the legislature to seek the repeal of those policy provisions. So I think that there are opportunities for us to get around those pieces, and we're discussing the opportunities right now. Right? The problem is that at the local level, we don't control gun law. I get all the text messages and phone calls. I do all throughout the day, especially all throughout the night, about people who've been shot, people who've been killed, and most of that happens by firearms in the city of Milwaukee. Yet the council, we don't control gun law. But everybody looks at us, and my challenge to our friends in the press is that instead of simply coming to us, and certainly we have to do our part with programming like Camp Rise we talked about to address this on the front end, my challenge to you is for you guys to have those same sort of questions for the people who do control gun law, right? Those are the folks who have majorities in our legislature in Madison, and of course the folks at the federal level as well, to see what they are doing about access to guns for people who clearly should not have them. So it'd be my desire to do something else that the city has been unsuccessful in doing for a long time in Madison, and that's getting the legislature to act on guns. Now, I have said from the beginning, I have to be a political realist, right? I have to understand the lay of the land of Madison. So I know going into it that it would not be some sweeping legislation on guns that I or perhaps others might like to see. But we have to do something more than what the status quo is. The status quo where I'm seeing, and all of us are seeing and witnessing, people being shot fatally or non-fatally every single day. It's too much. It's been too much, right? We shouldn't live in a city, in a state, or a society where parents have to hold their kids really tightly when they send them to school because the ease in which people can get guns and potentially be a mass shooter at a school. I can tell you, I've got 3 kids, a rising 8th grader and rising K5ers. Is that K5ers? And after Uvalde, when my girls were going to school, I was devastated. My wife and we struggled with the idea to send our kids to school, and parents shouldn't have to think about that. If you're in Milwaukee, if you're in a suburban community, if you're in a rural part of our state, we have an issue with guns that we have to address roughly at the end of the career span for the ballooned number of folks who came into law enforcement in the 1990s, right? They're hitting their 25-year mark, and so some of them are deciding to retire. But it's my desire as mayor to make sure that we have public safety in Milwaukee, and a large part of public safety our public safety apparatus means that we need to have police, means that we need to have law enforcement. That's why I've been a champion for COPS grants in the past. That's why I've been a champion of making sure that we increase opportunities in the city of Milwaukee to go and recruit people to serve in those very valuable, very important roles of public safety in Milwaukee. So we'll have to double down on our efforts to make sure that we're recruiting people to serve in the position of firefighter as well as police officer in the city of Milwaukee.
Northwestern Mutual, Fiserv, Right Heights, some of the other ones. Is there something in the city's pitch that's beyond just the face value that we all think of okay, well, you got more restaurants on your lunch break and you got better access from all directions on the freeway? I mean, is there something else that the city is using as kind of its secret sauce to pitch businesses to come down here?
Well, if I tell you that, people.
Why is that inside info? Maybe a sneak peek.
If I told you that, then somebody else may try to copy us. Well, look, I have said from the beginning of my administration that I want to get to yes. So for businesses that are out there, whether you're in the city of Milwaukee and want to expand, whether you're in the suburbs and want to move your locations into the city, which I think that you all should, or whether you're a business elsewhere in the country that's looking for a new home, Milwaukee is here. Milwaukee is right, and we want to get to yes. We want to get to yes. And that's exactly what we've done. We've cut through red tape. We've gotten through challenges with a number of the big businesses that you talked about. Whether that's the couture that's rising out of the ground, we work to get that done. Whether it's Milwaukee Tool, we work to get that done. Whether it's Pfizer, we work to get that done. We had open arms for Right Height to come into Milwaukee. Kohl's is opening its format store downtown. It will replicate this likely in other communities across the United States. We're an administration that wants to get to yes, working with our business community, because we understand the value of business. We understand the value of those opportunities being available to citizens in Milwaukee, and those opportunities creating stability, again, like I pointed to earlier, in their lives, then therefore in their family and in their neighborhood, and how all of that contributes to the greater public safety. And I think that businesses see that, they're buying into that. And when you talked about face value, I thought you were talking about this face. But they see that, they value that, they know that we are business friendly, that we are open for business in the city of Milwaukee. And I think they want to be a part of that interview. And I think that's what's going on. It's going to redefine our skyline, is because the streetcar. It's got a streetcar stop right at the base of the building, right? When you look at this other development that's coming out of the ground, Hines, an international development firm that has made its first investment in the state of Wisconsin, and they did that right here in Milwaukee with no public subsidy, no help. They said this is a place we want to be, and a large part of that was what? And they cited it, the street. I get the text messages when somebody gets hurt, and especially when a kid gets hurt. And it drives me insane. It drives me absolutely insane when I get a call and I see that some child, some minor, some juvenile, some kid in Milwaukee has been shot, because it should not happen. It just shouldn't happen. And too many times as well, it's a kid who shot another kid. Like, how on earth are we living in a society? Are we living in a city that doesn't control gun law, but a state that has broader authority on access to guns, where kids are being shot and we're doing nothing about it? Should not have their hands on them in the first place. And that's why we got to continue to work with the state in order to make sure that does not happen. That'd be good for the city, that'd be good for the region, and that'd be good for the state of Wisconsin. Of all these initiatives, boulevards all across the city, from the northwest side all the way to the south side. We work with the Metropolitan Milwaukee Sewerage District to create bioswales to capture water where it falls to mitigate flooding across the city of Milwaukee. We've worked with Milwaukee Public Schools to take some of those hard surface areas, those gray surface areas, and turn them into outdoor classrooms, these green spaces where students have that sort of access. Just, was it 2 weeks ago, I signed a climate and equity plan that will help us to be more conscious about the climate, be more conscious about our environment, and create family supporting jobs, particularly for people of color who have been left out, left behind, to get work and green jobs in Milwaukee. And we're going to have to be conscious of that because as the climate continues to change in the United States and around the world, folks will look to places that are climate havens. And when you look across the country, you've got areas of the country, of the U.S. that are prone to hurricanes every year. You've got areas of the U.S. that are prone to back-to-back hurricanes. You got prone to tornadoes rather. You got areas of the U.S. that are prone to earthquakes constantly, and all of us are heating. But the sweet spot, and then there's the issue of water scarcity as well. You factor all those in, and the sweet spot in the country is, guess what? Right here in Milwaukee. It's right here. And so folks will look at us, and it's going to be incumbent upon us to make sure that we take our climate, we take our environment into account. And that's another piece of my plan to have a protected bike lane network across the city, reducing the need for people to expand their carbon footprint with cars in the city too. So it's a big part of our priority, and that's why I was happy to publicly sign